because I think it's important to talk about consent in 2025.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of these young men, and I forget, I mean, not necessarily these 5 men from the trial, but young men today in particular, we're coming out of we're in this later stages of the pandemic, end stages, whatever you want to say, right? This era of hyper socialization, socializing through technology and machines. I know young people are more getting used to it, and people of all generations, WhatsApp and like FaceTime each
Yeah.
other. So I think about social literacy and social skills, like reading body language, social cues, because it's not just getting a yes at the bar. It's this ongoing piece, and it is checking in and getting verbal cues. But you can also, like, the 5 guys who left the room, when they were in the room, what were they reading? What were they, what were the social cues, her body language, like what was happening? And regardless, like, just even like, so you just met her at the bar, you brought her back, and now you've reached out to everybody. Is she good with this? Like, was that even uttered?
Hmm.
You know? So I think the ability to read in and check in with yourself, check in with the person, with others, you know, just
Hmm.
your thoughts about that.
Yeah, consent is such a loaded conversation because
Hmm.
it's so characterized by criminal legal frameworks and like
Right, right.
that how that is defined, and it's apt to point out that that definition continues to expand and it's lagging behind the rapidly evolving social context. So I think about stealthing being introduced in the criminal legal code, or
Mm,
like in 2020 to talk about informed consent and how that was not part of the legal definition of consent until like 2020 or 2021. So that definition is not perfect, that criminal legal one. So I want to start there because I think that can contribute to why the judge characterized it the way that she did. I also wanted to mention super briefly as well, going back to the trial, how troubling I found it that experts were not consulted or called to testify. So thinking about people that do this work every day, people that like have spoken in the news who are like experts in sexual assault law, and like that they were not consulted, like that the judge felt that she had the authority and the knowledge to speak on this when a 2015 Canadian Women's Foundation study found that like 2 out of 3 adult Canadians don't understand consent. It's something that is very undereducated about. I think we're getting a little bit better with it, but I think about when I was in school, we didn't talk about consent.
yeah.
That was not a thing, and a lot of people are learning about it for the first time in university when they've been sexually active potentially for like 5 years by that point. So sorry, that was a quick aside,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, when I think about consent as well, I think about like the need for recognition of power imbalances and the
Yeah.
context in which consent is being negotiated. We are not on an even playing field, that we're just not. We're not entering into a space where two sober people with equal social privilege and an equal positioning are verbally talking about what they want to do sexually. We're often entering into it where substances are present, where there is a power imbalance. When I think about a young woman going into a room with 8 hockey players or 10 hockey players, I think about consent in a really different way. Like, and I think we
Yep,
need to acknowledge that.
yep.
And I think about the guys who sat and watched her get slapped, her get like tossed around. And exactly as you're saying, Jeff, like, where was the moment of checking in? And should I check in? And is she okay with this? And the judge concluding that there was consent in that case is really, really troubling when a video is taken at the end and deemed that consents to the entire situation, as if that wasn't also under coercion, as if the very act of recording someone confirming their consent does not raise questions about why that's being done. Like, I just think there that this, exactly as you're saying, consent in 2025, I think this case is going to push this conversation necessarily even further, because it's really, really troubling to think about how people think it's binary, yes means yes and no means no, and there's not all these nuances and complexities that we need to spend time interrogating and thinking about. Um, yeah, and I really love some of the resources that I've seen in my public education work that talk about like consent as fries, so like freely given, reversible,
Yes.
informed, enthusiastic, specific, all these things that we can start to, exactly as you alluded to, like integrate into our everyday lives we ask for consent all the time. We should be talking about consent all the time. Like, even I always use this example when I do public education. When you're taking a picture of your friends and posting it on the internet, like, are you asking for consent before you do that,
Yep.
or are you just
Yep.
assuming it, right?
Yep.
And I think normalizing those conversations can be really beneficial. And the other resources I wanted to shout out quickly is I did workshops with junior hockey players in Hamilton. Shout out the Hamilton Guilty Bees, a really, really wonderful group of young men. We did a consent wheel that I found on the internet where we just like hit it and we get a response. So it's like, I'm not sure, maybe not right now. And then we
Oh,
talked
okay.
about like, is that consent? And like got to kind of interrogate that as a group.
Nice.
So really kind of complicating that, exactly as you said, like maybe the person is saying yes, but what's their body language saying in that moment? What was EM's body language communicating? And is that signaling a kind of coercion that we should not assume is Fry's consent as we know it?
Yes.
So yeah.